Let's welcome Professor Sridhar of IIIT Bangalore. So he will be speaking on the privacy laws and regulations. So in the morning lecture, I mentioned that so crypto alone cannot solve all the problems, and we should have a strong backing by law. So now we will get an insight into the privacy laws. So let's welcome Professor Sridhar again, and one of our volunteers, Suraj, will formally introduce Professor Sridhar.
Hello and welcome to one and all present here. Professor Sridhar's talk for today is titled Taxonomy of Privacy. Dr. V. Sridhar is a professor at the Center for IT and Public Policy at the International Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore, India. Dr. Sridhar obtained his PhD from the University of Iowa, USA. He is the author of 3 books: Telecom Revolution in India, Technology, Regulation and Policy, The Dynamics of Spectrum Management, Legacy, Technology and Economics, and the third one, Emerging ICT Policies and Regulations, Roadmap to Digital Economies. His currently edited book titled Data-Centric Living, Algorithms, Digitization and Regulation is scheduled for publication in 2022 by Routledge. Dr. Sridhar has taught at many institutions in the USA, Finland, New Zealand, and India. He was a visiting scholar at the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism, University of Southern California, USA. He has received funding from different sources, both national and international, for his research projects, recent ones being from Facebook. He has been a member of Government of India committees on telecom and IT and has published many peer-reviewed articles in telecom and information system journals. He has also written more than 300 articles in newspapers and magazines on telecom regulation. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Suraj. Yeah, thanks, Professor Vivek, for inviting me to this particular summer school. So let me share my screen. So thank you. Thanks for the introduction, and welcome all the participants to this very important workshop and the summer school on privacy. So what I'm going to do, see, my sessions are split into 2. Today I will discuss about what I call as taxonomy of privacy. We'll go through some of the details. The second one, which is on tomorrow afternoon, I'll talk about the laws and regulations. So that's how I structured with this my presentations. Okay. So see, in this particular slide, you can see that the information life cycle, data collection, where the data is collected from the data subjects by government or internet firms, also known as data fiduciaries. Then they process the information, and then they disseminate it for certain purposes. They also store it, right? They also store this particular data that has been collected. I'll take the pen here. Yeah, they also store the data and then probably do some repair later on, right? So data transmission, storage, and repair. So this is the life cycle of information, and the privacy intrusions can happen at any stage, the data collection stage, or in the data processing stage, dissemination stage, or the data storage space, and things like that. So we are going to discuss about the various types of privacy intrusions and whether we can put some taxonomy around that so that it is very clear to us what is the type of intrusion. Okay, so that is the objective of this particular session. So most of the work that I will be presenting today from this particular source, Daniel Soloway, who is the professor of law at George Washington University School of Law, and he wrote a seminal paper on the taxonomy of privacy long time back in 2006. Okay, so most of the discussions will be around the taxonomy that was discussed in the 2006 paper. Okay. Now, privacy is very convoluted subject, I must say, right? Can anyone say very clearly what privacy means in the chat box, please? What is privacy? According to you, what is privacy? I'll just give 1 minute to get some messages in the chat box. I should be able to see the chat messages, no, Suraj?
Yes, sir. You should be able to see.
Only the intended people get access. Mahima has given. Asking for respect for my intellectual property, freedom to expose information about yourself. Privacy is freedom from interference. Good point. Data which don't want to share with anyone. Okay. Controlled information access and management, having the choice. Good. Freedom from intrusion. Okay, good. So there are various definitions of privacy, right? So privacy encompasses a lot of attributes or features. So what we will go through is the different types of privacy intrusions which can happen through the information lifecycle. And that's what we try to get it. Okay. So in the collection stage, there are broadly two kinds of intrusions which can take place, either through surveillance or through interrogation. Okay. So most of it we will discuss through examples. Yeah. Everyone must be knowing about this particular episode, right? Edward Snowden incident. The Snowden incident is the one which basically started the privacy debate, especially in the European Union and also in various parts of the country, including India, right? So this particular case, I am sure that a number of people may be knowing about it. So this Edward Snowden episode is very well known, right? So there was a person by name Edward Snowden who worked for a consulting firm in the US, and during his work he found out that the National Security Agency of the United States was snooping on a lot of people's personal data, right? So he basically found out that the NSA has been asking organizations to give personal information about individuals, and he thought that it is high time that he stopped this. Right? So he flew all the way to Hong Kong with a briefcase. In the briefcase contained all the documents that supported evidence of the National Security Agency snooping on individuals' personal information. He went at the Hong Kong International Airport and then divulged this particular secret. That became the Snowden episode, right? Now, after this, there was, I don't know where Snowden is now. Maybe you can type in the chat as to where Snowden is now. He was manhunted by the Department of Defense and in the US, Russia. Okay, so he was manhunted by CIA, FBI, and so on. But he revealed one important thing about government spying on individuals. So he said that even the high security National Security Agency cannot spy on people without their consent. Right? So this is a covert type of surveillance wherein nobody knew that the NSA was snooping. They were happily sending messages, happily emailing back and forth, posting it on social media and so on. But there was this Uncle Sam which was collecting all this information, trying to find out what the profile of these people are, maybe for national security, maybe for preventing some disaster and so on, but without even the people whose information was being spied upon. Right? So this is a case of privacy intrusion, which brought all these regulations into fore. Now, this is a covert type of surveillance, because these data subjects like you and me were never aware of that, right? But spying was taking place. And it is also not by any individual organization. We will call these internet firms like WhatsApp, Facebook, Google as data fiduciaries, because that's the way in which they have been defined in the law. Now, this is not by a data fiduciary, it is by the state, by the government. Even then, we can ask this question, whether the government has the right to invade on the privacy of the individuals. So this happens as a surveillance. Right? And somebody, you might be knowing about this China CCTV surveillance, right? So you should see this particular video. I have given here the YouTube link. I think it still works if you can access it. Right? So what happens was that a BBC reporter challenged the China's government that, you are saying that you have all the surveillance in the world, but I can actually disappear in Shanghai and you will never be able to, pinpoint me out. Okay, you will never be able to find where I am. I'm going to disappear into Shanghai. Shanghai is a very large city. It's the largest city in China with close to about 20 million population, right? Much bigger than Bangalore or Delhi, right? So the BBC reporter thought that he could just melt into the crowd and that he will not be able to be traced. However, within 7 minutes, it just took 7 minutes for China's CCTV surveillance network to spot this particular BBC reporter and then bring him back to the studio. So it just took 7 minutes. So he was not successful in melting into the crowd, right? Such is the power of CCTV surveillance. In fact, Shanghai is supposed to be one of the cities with the largest number of closed circuit television cameras, right? So there are CCTVs everywhere. You might also be seeing CCTVs everywhere, right? For example, if you come to IIITB, there is a warning signal which says that at the reception, you see a note saying that some parts of the institute are being surveilled using CCTV. Okay. Now, this is another type of surveillance, right? I'm not saying that IIITB should not surveil. Everyone who surveils has some objective in mind, right? There is always a purpose. Now, what I'm saying is that this is an overt surveillance. If you go to any of the today, if you go to any of the retail stores, you have that information written down, right? CCTV surveillance is being done. Why? People don't want things to be stolen from their shops, right? They want all the material to be purchased and paid for, right? That's one of the reasons why they put the CCTV. Now the question is this kind of surveillance, the data subjects are very well aware that they are being surveilled. Is it a privacy intrusion? So here you know that you are being surveilled.
Sorry,
right?
Yes, Dr. Sahiti has responded saying yes. And
Yes.
Puneet
Okay.
has said at least we can see the CCTVs. We never knew of the PRISM program.
Okay.
Maruti mentioned location of the BBC report is a matter of privacy.
Okay.
Then,
okay. So you think that there is a privacy intrusion. What kind of a privacy intrusion is that? The important thing is that when someone is looking at you, right? Somebody is looking at you. Do you think that you will behave normally? Yes or no? In the chat box, please.
Yes, no is the response. Ramesh Babu said yes. Yes, no, mix of yes, no.
Mix of it.
No.
Correct. So see, when somebody is looking at you, when CCTV is looking at you, it is quite possible that you will behave in a way which is different from your normal behavior, because you never know how it is going to be used, right? So if you are being constantly monitored, even though you may know that you are being constantly monitored, that is overt surveillance, it is possible that you will behave in a slightly different frame from your normal self, right? Now, here is where the definition of privacy matters, right? If you are not behaving normally, but you are behaving a little bit different from your normal behavior because somebody is looking at you, then your behavior is being changed. And therefore, it is an intrusion of privacy. You understand what I'm saying? So this is very subtle. It is very subtle compared to the covert surveillance that we discussed earlier, right? So this could be a case for privacy intrusion. Now, I want all of you to have in mind a scale, a Likert scale between 1 and 10, right? Now, 1 is severe. One is it is not privacy intrusion at all, and 10 is heavily intruded in the form of privacy. Heavy privacy intrusion, 10. No privacy intrusion. On a scale of 1 to 10, right? What will you give the number for the previous case, the NSA snooping? 1 is not a privacy intrusion at all, privacy violation at all. 10, it is extremely violating privacy of individuals. What is the number that you will give for the previous one? The
Average-
NSA Snowden. Yeah, what is the
average
average? You have to quickly calculate the average and tell me.
Average of 9.
9. Okay.
9, yes.
What about this one? This case, China's CCTV surveillance or any surveillance wherein the CCTV camera is mounted and the information is displayed and so on, that you are being surveilled.
Average of 7.
7. So this is one of the ways by which we can find out what is the extent of privacy intrusion, right? When a privacy case is taken up in a court of law, they will see what is the damage that you incur because of this privacy intrusion, right? If there is very minimal privacy intrusion, they will just throw it out of the court. But if there is severe privacy intrusion, then you can go and sue billions of dollars for Twitter or WhatsApp, and you can become a billionaire overnight and you can forget about studying. Okay, so that is one of the reasons why we are giving that particular scale. So obviously this case is a little bit milder compared to the previous case that we discussed. Okay, now this is important. I don't know how much. Okay, interviews, interrogation. Suppose you are going to an interview, right, for a job, and they have asked you your name, what have you done, and all those things. Then he asks you, what's your blood group? Is this intrusion of privacy? Yes or no in the chat box, please. And why? Why so? If you think that there's privacy intrusion, why? The interviewer asked you, what is your blood group? What is wrong with that? Anything?
Majority said yes, that's personal. It's not relevant to the job.
Good point. Purpose related. Okay, we will come back and discuss about it tomorrow. Right? Now, how is this job depend upon my blood group? Right? I mean, unless you are doing something else, anybody with any blood group, O positive or A positive or O, whatever it is, can work on this particular task, unless it is the task is so much dependent on blood group, right? So there is no reason for an interviewer to ask you what the blood group is. In fact, you as an individual, if you go for a job interview and if somebody asks you this, right? Or somebody asks you, are you married? Is this violation of privacy? In the chat box, the interviewer asks you, are you married? Yes or no?
It's yes and no. Any personal data is private, is what
So you see the difference, right? So if
said because it can influence the decision.
It can influence the decision, right? But the job profile does not demand that you be a bachelor and not married, or only married, not a bachelor, right? And therefore, it has to be, the questions that you answer should be related to the purpose for which it is done. If the interview is done for a job, then you have to ask job related questions. Anything which is not job related, you can actually stand up and say that, I will not answer this. If you insist, then I will take you to the court because there is personal data protection bill to protect me. Okay, so that's the answer you should give. So interrogation, why does this happen? Normally, suppose I ask this question, you are appearing for a Facebook interview, okay, meta interview, and the expected salary is $1 million. Okay. Now the job interviewer asked you, are you married? Will you answer this question or not? In the chat box, please. What's the answer?
Majority no.
No, $1 million. Otherwise, you will lose the job. The interviewer specifically says, if you answer me this question, I'll give you a job. Otherwise, I won't give you a job.
Then I can, maybe yes is the answer.
Maybe yes. So there is a power asymmetry, right? When somebody is interviewing someone, the guy who is interviewing has high power compared to the guy who is being interviewed, right? Like you. And therefore, this power asymmetry can be used in order to intrude into your privacy, even though the task that they are doing has got nothing to do with the personal information that they are asking. Is that clear? So this power asymmetry in interviews and things like that are very important source of privacy intrusions, right? So in general, stand up on privacy and say, no, this question is not related to the job and therefore I'll not answer it. Okay. The next one, processing, right? So once the data is collected, either through surveillance or through interrogation, whatever it is, then it is processed and there are a lot of privacy intrusions that can possibly take place. Okay, I'll take you through some examples. What about this? Zoom. Zoom basically, you do most of it. Even now as we speak, we are doing Zoom conferencing, right? So what happens if Zoom collects all these video recordings, right? They have access to the video recordings, right? And then gives it to a third party, right? For some reason, right? Either to promote some products or whatever it is. Is this violation of privacy? Third party sharing. Zoom actually did that in 2021. What's the answer that you get?
Yes, definitely extremely intrusive.
Extremely intruding, right?
Sorry, I'm Annapurna, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, Annapurna. Okay. So
it's yes and highly intrusive.
Yeah. So it is intrusive, right? Because when you do a video conferencing like this, right, I am assuming that all the conversations which take place during this particular summer workshop is going to be confidential to us, because we are not opening it for public. If somebody posts it in the public, or somebody tells about this conversation that is taking place between you and me to outside, then it could be a violation of privacy, right? In fact,
unless we sign a contract with them.
Unless you sign a contract, unless you give a consent saying that, okay, whatever happens during the Zoom session can be shared by Zoom to third party. So if you give a consent to it, yes, it is through contractual agreement, they can say they can sell it. But the problem with the consent will come back later on tomorrow. Okay, so we'll come back and discuss about it. In fact, Zoom did that, and they had to pay something like $25 to all the paid subscribers, and all the free subscribers, the users get $15. Is this worth it? Right? Is this the right? So what I'm saying is $15. If most of us are use Zoom without paying, right? We're all non-paying subscribers. So after this breach, Zoom said that, oh, we have breached your privacy. We'll pay you $15. Is that the worth of my privacy? How many of you do you think that my privacy is worth only $15? Yes or no?
It's 100% no.
100% no. So it's not 50. So it is very difficult to put a figure on this privacy, right? Privacy trade-off that you are making, right? So that is why it is extremely difficult problem for the economists to solve. There's a whole set of literature which looked at the privacy economics. But obviously you are saying that, this $15 is not worth it. In fact, my personal information that is collected by the Zoom is worth much, much more, right? So why Zoom settled it is because of, again, the power asymmetry. Zoom is such a large company that you and I cannot go to the court and win it, right? That's one of the reasons why the companies like Zoom have done these kind of things. But anyway, the important thing is third-party sharing without your consent is a violation of privacy. You must have noticed that WhatsApp came up with a new policy, privacy policy, and it was shot down by our government. The reason was that it said in the new policy that it will share the business user data with Facebook. WhatsApp has two kinds of messaging, right? One is peer-to-peer, like you and me communicating over WhatsApp or in a group. The other one is business WhatsApp, right? Most of the numbers that we see today in which we get advertisements in WhatsApp are business users. Now, what WhatsApp said was, WhatsApp also owns Facebook or Meta, right? So WhatsApp changed its policy saying that whatever you converse with a business customer in a business account, that can be shared with, for example, Meta or Facebook, because Meta or Facebook also owns WhatsApp. Is this intrusion of privacy? Yes or no in the chat box, please. Yes, no?
Yes, no, could be no, because we accept terms.
We accept terms.
As much.
Okay. So WhatsApp has a specific purpose, right? So we want to ask a question, we want to share information. It is not that, it is different from posting it on Facebook. Just because Facebook owns WhatsApp, it cannot use WhatsApp information for Facebook. or Facebook information in WhatsApp, even though both the products are being owned by Facebook. There is a subtle difference here, right? So when you sign a contract, right, when you say accept the privacy policy, you are accepting the privacy policy of WhatsApp, right? You are not accepting the privacy policy of Facebook. And therefore, when you sign up with WhatsApp with its privacy policy, it cannot be taken as an instrument for sharing its information with the other products that it owns, right? So therefore, this new policy was not accepted by the government of India, and it was shot down, and WhatsApp actually rolled back its new privacy policy regarding this, okay, because it was intruding into the privacy of the individuals.
There is an interesting comment, if I can read out.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, for business purposes, it makes easier for PR departments to have WA and FB data to be interchanged.
That is what? That is Zuckerberg's view. Is that your view? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right. So that is Zuckerberg's view, right? That all these two things should be sort of synthesized together, right? It may not be your view, but who owns the data? You own the data as a data subject, and therefore you should have some say in what Zuckerberg is doing, right? Now, so this is called a secondary use. That is, sharing the information that the data fiduciary collects for one purpose with another firm, right? Or third-party agencies. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is the number that you will give for privacy violation? 1, no privacy violation. 10, extremely high privacy violation. Any number average you can give, Annapurna?
Yeah, they are typing in. Average of around 6 to 7.
6 to 7?
Yep.
Okay, so you think that it is not as privacy intrusive as surveillance, right? But it is still privacy intrusive, right? Because you have crossed the threshold of 5.
So
right?
Chandrasekhar has given 11.
No, it's only 1 to 10. So restrict yourself to 1 to 10. So anyway, so you get the feel, right? So this is also indeed a privacy violation. It's called a secondary use. Then we will discuss the concept of aggregation. What is aggregation? You know this case? China is creating a social credit system where a government will monitor and control everyone's speech and everything they do. Okay. So in fact, I've heard instances where you go to a park in China and then you pluck a flower in the public park. Okay. In India, everybody plucks and then takes it home. In China, if you pluck the flower, then immediately a CCTV camera would have captured it. Okay. You are violating, you are actually, destroying a public property. Flower in a plant, in a public park is the property of the state. And therefore, if you pluck it, then immediately the CCTV will capture it. They have something called as a social credit system. It gives you marks. It will give you a negative mark. Suddenly, your social credit marks, if you had about 70 or something like that, because you plucked the flower, it would have dropped to 50. Okay. Tomorrow, I've heard these instances. The guy who plucked the flower takes his or her child to the school. The school will access the social credit system, says that it is only 50. You don't pass. And therefore, your daughter or son cannot be enrolled in the school. Is it violation of privacy? In the chat box, please.
Yes. It's 100% yes.
Okay, it indeed happens. Seems to be happening. Huh? Okay, now the important thing is here, it is not just the plucking of the flower that matters, right? The plucking of the flower is merged with a lot other information about that particular individual. Okay, so the individual might have spat on a public place, right, earlier, or he might have crossed the pedestrian crossing when the signal was red. Okay, so he might have done a little bit of violations here and there, right? Now all these are aggregated, put together, and then the digital social credit marks were given for this particular individual, right? So it is not just a single attribute of the individual that we are looking at. It is a combination of the things that they have done right? And these have been aggregated in order to come up with what is called as a digital persona of an individual, right? Now, if the digital persona is much more than the individual parts, and therefore it has much more information, right? Collected together makes some sense about that particular individual than a single attribute. For example, somebody asks you the Aadhaar card, okay? I will give you 4815426. In fact, I remember the social security number. I don't remember the Aadhaar number. If I tell you that, is it violation of privacy? Yes or no in the chat box? Annapurna, what are we saying?
Yes, yes, so far.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
See,
yes.
I give you the number 4815426. What can you make out of this? Can you make anything out of this? It's a random number, no? You go to UIDAI website. Let's say that Aadhaar number is the 16 digit, I think. Yeah, 16 digit random number. So it's a random. If it is by nature, it is random. It cannot be attributed to any individual. No, it is random, right? But when you combine this Aadhaar number with my name, with my address, with my mobile number, all those things put together, then you can create the digital persona of me, right? Oh, this guy must be living in Bangalore. Oh, this guy is now talking from IIITB. You know the IP address, no? So you trace the IP address, then you will know that it is IIITB.org.ac.in owns that. So he must be from IIITB, right? So all those individual information can be collected together to make a profile of me, and that is privacy intrusion, right? Because when you give that, for example, I am using an IP address, but if somebody uses my IP address in order to figure out that I'm a faculty at IIIT Bangalore and I am in a Zoom session now, then that is far more intrusive than just having the IP address. In a scale of 1 to 10, what will you say about the privacy violation in this particular case? Give me a number, please.
It's average of 9.
9. Yeah. It's expected, right? Because this aggregated information can create a digital persona of the individuals, and it can have far-reaching, consequences. Okay, so that is.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
If the bank says that okay, you need to link your Aadhaar with the PAN number or something of that sort, I cannot really decline, right? Otherwise, they are going to stop my banking services.
Correct. So that is why you know that in the previous about 2 years back, right, when Aadhaar had to be linked, every Tom, Dick, and Harry used to link the Aadhaar number. Even mobile companies, if you want to have a SIM card, then they will ask you for fingerprint chahiye sir, Aadhaar. You have to link it. But then there is a lot of consequences. A lot of people raised voices, and the government pulled out this. Right? They said that linking Aadhaar is necessary for only government and government-related services, okay, including the banking sector, but not for mobile number. So today, if somebody wants to do KYC on you, right, for giving you a SIM, you can actually say that no, I cannot give you an Aadhaar number because that's not mandated by law. Okay, so only law can say what is permissible and what is not permissible. Is that clear?
And then whatever the information that is previously shared before this law is passed?
Good point. That's a very good point. That is one of the important aspects of data. Okay. So for example, that's a very important point. See, you have a scooter. Okay. You sell the scooter to someone. Right. Now, the guy who bought your scooter, right, does some modification to the scooter. Do you have any say on that?
No,
because you have sold it,
yes.
Right? So there is a clear cutoff, right? Once you sell, then the property is disowned by you, right? But data is not like that. You give it to someone, right? I tell you what my eating habits are, vegetarian, whatever it is, right? You tell it to someone else, right? Now tomorrow, when I become non-vegetarian, that vegetarian persona that you had in mind earlier, or the society at large had in mind earlier, is still there, right? They will say, how come this guy has converted himself from vegetarian to non-vegetarian? So, do you understand what I'm saying, right? So this information transcends over time period, right? Unlike a physical property, which when you transact it, it's gone, and you cannot have much say about it. But the data, lies with you all the time, right, over the time period. And therefore, the privacy intrusions can also linger over time. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Maybe Professor Sridhar, this is
Yes.
very clear. So maybe I think it's the cultural aspect, right? Maybe we
Right.
want to also timestamp our data, culturally, so that oh, okay, at that instant of time, this was the thing, and then probably people are not sensitive to that,
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. So, in fact, you remember that Professor Vivek has raised a very important point. See, I also used to go and train. You also, I think, travel in trains and so on, right? And if he used to, I mean, there will be complete strangers who will be our fellow, the same compartment, same berth, right? And we used to talk quite a bit about our family and all. No privacy, nothing. We used to tell all this information about our family matters to the stranger, right? Today, can you say that? No. The reason is, once you tell that stranger, it is possible that that guy will go onto WhatsApp, type this message about your family, and it is seen by billions instantaneously. So the digital access, right, has a lot of connotations for privacy. We were not privacy aware at all about 4 or 5 years back, but thanks to WhatsApp, that everybody is privacy aware today, because a message which is sent out digitally can reach billions in no time, right? And that is one of the changes. I mean, that's sort of tangentially answering your question, Professor Vivek.
thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So identification, re-identification. So this particular cartoon tells a lot, right? So Aadhaar. So identification, we mentioned about Aadhaar, right? So Aadhaar, there is a 16-digit random number. So this random number is actually random, and you cannot really attribute it. You cannot, I give you that number, 4357834535224. Can you find out who this particular person is with that particular Aadhaar number? Very difficult, because it's a random number. You cannot really associate an individual with that particular number. Re-identification is nearly impossible. But on the other hand, the Aadhaar database also collects a lot of other information, especially the biometrics, right? Your fingerprints, your iris scan, and things like that, right? Now, this flesh and blood information, that is biometric information, has a one-to-one mapping, with an individual. So if you get the biometric data, is it possible to identify that particular individual in the world of 7.3 billion people? In the chat box, please.
No responses yet.
No responses.
Yes.
So the question is it possible that if you get the biometric of an individual, is it possible to re-identify that individual who is having that biometrics in the world of 7.2? Yes, because biometrics, the flesh and blood, has a one-to-one mapping with an individual. So any breach on the Aadhaar database, the biometric database, will have serious consequences, correct? And therefore, we need to have all the security precautions, as Professor Vivek and others will discuss or have discussed, in place, so that re-identification is not at all possible. Okay, so breach of identity database, such as Aadhaar, how will you rate it in a scale of 1 to 10? Re-identification using certain personal information that is unique to the individual, how will you rate it?
It's 10. Mostly
10.
everybody
Right.
has 10.
So that's why we need to keep very safe these biometric information, right? So any breach could lead to re-identification of the individual, right? So this is known as identification, re-identification. That's why a lot of techniques such as anonymization like that have come, so that re-identification is not possible. Okay.
There is a question, Professor Sridhar.
Yeah.
How is privacy being dealt within companies, apartments, and offices that use CCTVs without consent of the people they are recording?
See, again, it is like fine print, right? Have you see most of the apartments or buildings, you must be having this management committee, have they told you that we will install CCTV camera for security purposes? Did you ask them that how are you going to keep it safe so that my privacy is not violated? Have you asked this question in the chat box, please? Have you asked?
No is what the response.
So it is like fine print, right? So for example, whenever you download an app, what does it ask? It asks 1,000 questions, no? Can I have access to your photos? Can I have access to your location and all those things? How many of you go meticulously and check which ones are allowed, which ones are not allowed? How many of you do that? Yes, in the chat box, please. How many yeses you get?
Yes, no, it's a combination of yes and no. Yes,
Yes and no.
No, yes.
So unless you are very much aware of privacy, you won't ask this question. And the default is yes, you can do whatever you want with my personal information, right? Unless there is a law which changes that. Okay, so we'll discuss it tomorrow, how law can change that. But in general, the default is yes. And that is one of the reasons why the privacy violations happen left and right, because we as data subjects do not give enough importance to privacy at that point in time to make sure that we don't give consent to whatever we don't agree. Okay, so we'll come back to it later.
Yeah, there is one more question if I can.
Yeah.
There is question from Ramesh Babu. Can the disclaimer vary from a device to device when the data gets captured?
Yes, it can vary from device to device. And today, the technology is available to find out whether you are accessing it through mobile or through laptop and things like that. Yes, it can vary quite a bit, and there has to be sort of consent agreement for different devices that you use. Now, identification has gone berserk, right, with face recognition, right? So, for example, today I was listening to one of our faculty members saying that you can have security precautions in your home, and there are startups which use machine learning and artificial intelligence to find out, right, whether there is any stranger in your home. Okay? So they know your face. If, for example, some stranger comes and into your home, then using face recognition, it can immediately detect whether that particular person is a stranger or not, right? And there are, of course, a lot of cyber attacks being carried out using lookalikes, right? Lookalikes like this face recognition techniques. So in general, right, identification using a particular method or re-identification using a particular method, mostly biometrics and things like that, is a serious violation of privacy. So today, you tell me on the chat box, are you afraid that at some point in time you are vulnerable because you have given your biometrics to Aadhaar database? Are you vulnerable? Yes or no?
Yes. It's 100% yes.
Yes, right. So that is a privacy intrusion because you have a fear of being tracked, identified, and so on, right? Of course, the government has to ensure that this privacy violation does not take place at all, right? Of course, you must be seeing, right? Your other UIDAI chief comes on and off saying that, our database is very security safe, and we have not had any breaches, and we will never have any breaches, things like that, right? Of course, the UIDAI has taken enough precautions to make sure that the biometric information is as safe as possible, but only law can protect you from being misused, and we'll discuss it tomorrow. Correct? Okay. Security, insecurity, right? So a lot of intrusions can take place because there are no security precautions. There's not enough security precautions. Every now and then you will hear this, no? Major cyber attack, right? And your password is breached, right? And your emails are breached, and so on, right? So there is one mistaken click. That's all took hackers aligned with the Russian State Security Service to gain access to Yahoo's network. It was one of the largest breaches, right? As many as 500 million people's email address and passwords and associated personal information was leaked, right? Why did it happen? It happened because Yahoo did not have a secure network and secure servers. I think yesterday also it was mentioned, right? China's some millions of records were hacked, right? So hacking is become very common. Every day you will see that hacking happens. Why? Because the personal information is not stored with appropriate security mechanisms. And therefore, hacking is possible because of vulnerability of the code, vulnerability of the operating system, vulnerability of the cloud software. People are able to, cyber attackers are able to penetrate that and then get that information out, right? So it is because of lack of security. Despite this, most of the companies are still lacking in security process and procedures. Why? Why do you think security breaches keep on happening? Any comments in the chat box? Is this violation of privacy for this one? Does this lead to violation of privacy? If so, on a scale of 1 to 10, give me a number. Because of lack of security.
Not enough attention to data security is what Siddhartha has
Correct.
responded.
Correct. Scale of 1 to 10, the privacy intrusion because of lack of security, such as, for example, these data breaches.
Average of 9.
Breaches of 9. Okay.
Okay. The violators are getting themselves updated is what.
Good point. Good point. That is a very important point, right? So cyber attackers are becoming very smart. You know, if you use AI or if you use, right, homomorphic encryption to secure your data, the security attackers, this crypto analysts or the hackers will also use homomorphic encryption in order to decrypt whatever it is. I think Professor Felix is the best person to answer that, right? So, but in general, the cyber attackers are also getting more intelligent, right? And
there is an interesting question from Kayondo. It's, sorry if I'm pronouncing it correct.
Sure, sure.
Security enough to encourage data privacy.
Security
enough to encourage data privacy.
Is security enough to
encourage data?
Yeah. So definitely, if the whole system, right, including networks, servers, cloud, whatever it is as secure as it can be, then breaches cannot happen, and therefore, at least it will lessen privacy intrusions. And even if the intrusion happens, it may be minimal, right? It may be minimal. So the objective is, everybody knows in digital security that nothing can be 100% fail-proof, right? But at least if you make it 95% fail-proof, only 5% of the cases will be happening and not more than that, right? So definitely more robust security will always improve security. How many of you on your laptops have installed antivirus or antivirus software? How many of you have installed in your laptop?
Yes, no, yes. Yeah, it's a majority of yes.
50%? Yes.
Yeah, it's 70% maybe yes.
So 50% have not installed. I myself have not checked whether my laptop is Windows security protected or I have to install an antivirus. Okay. Now the reason is, of course, sometimes we are casual, right? We think that the data breaches cannot happen unless my laptop breaks down. The reason for installing an antivirus is very weak case, right? You go to our computer store. Okay. There is this homemade Desi antivirus software which you can get for 499 rupees. And there is McAfee, which costs 4,999 rupees. Which one will you buy? In the chat box, please. 499 or 4,900?
4,999. McAfee is the response.
Really?
One person responded the cheapest, they see.
Then these people are really privacy aware, I must say. Because I would go and buy this 499. You know reason why? Because even if I pay 4,999 to McAfee, I am not guaranteed any protection. And therefore, I might as well spend less. Right? So, I mean, these are all economics which plays into, for example, securing an infrastructure, right? So today, of course, individuals like you and me, I mean, you are really much more privacy and security aware compared to me, and the firms are improving their security infrastructure so that they can protect against, cyber attacks. But still, it is a major problem through which privacy intrusions can possibly happen. Okay.
There is a question from Shreyas.
Enjoy this cartoon, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how do we define a secure network? At what point can we be satisfied with the security to ensure data privacy?
So
If a
correct. So there is a whole research area, or discuss called the security risk analysis. So you have to compare the risk versus the investment that you have to put in, right? So you want to minimize the risk. The risk due security breaches cannot actually hit zero, right? But it can be like 5%. And if you can live with 5% breaches, and assuming that all these breaches are minimal in nature, then we can go with a 95% secure proof network, which is much less expensive compared to having a 99% secure proof network. 100% secure proof network will cost how much? In the chat box, please. 100% secure proof network or systems will cost how much? In the chat box.
Too much is what is
infinity. It should be infinity. It should be infinity, no? So we can't achieve 100%, right? So there is always this risk-benefit trade-off that organizations make. You and I also make, consciously or unconsciously. Okay, so hope you have enjoyed this particular cartoon. The next one is exclusion. What about this? Right? So this guy, Zomato, has mandated that all the delivery boys have to have Arogya Setu app. Okay, you remember that if you order in Zomato or I'm not sure, I normally order it using, what is that other one, Annapurna? Zomato and the other one. Swiggy. You get the temperature of the person. You get the temperature of the person is 97 degrees. You get that in the app when you order it. Right, Annapurna? Have you noticed that?
Yes.
So is this violation of privacy? Yes or no?
Yes, no, yes.
Yes, no. Does it matter? Does it matter what the temperature of the person is? Of course, in COVID times it matters. That's why they have installed it, right?
1% necessary to earn trust to deliver the service.
That's a question mark, right? Now, suppose if Zomato mandates that every delivery guy should have Arogya Setu installed on it, otherwise he will not be employed by Zomato. You know, that same thing happened. You remember last year? You have to show Arogya Setu app, right? You have to have Arogya Setu app in order to board a bus or a train or even the flight. If you don't have that, then you will not be allowed to board. Is this intrusion of privacy? Yes or no?
It's yes, no.
Yes, no.
Dr. Shravani said no.
Yeah. So Arogya Setu.
So it depends on the situation, right? Pandemic or not. Correct. No, so okay. Now pandemic is gone. I think that almost everyone is saying that pandemic is gone. But even now, certainly it's a violation of privacy for me.
So depending on the situation, of course, right? So in the interest of national security and avoid calamities and disasters, we have implemented Arogya Setu, but Arogya Setu lies with us, right? And you were expecting, right? During the COVID time, you wanted to make sure that the delivery guy does not have any fever or something like that, which is indicative of COVID infection. Today, if you get a delivery guy whose temperature is not shown, will you accept the delivery or not? Yes or no in the chat box?
Yes, no. Again, yes, no.
Yes. So if you are very health conscious, then you will say that, oh, I used to get that temperature information during the COVID time. I should get it now also, right? Now COVID is gone. But still, how does it matter what the temperature of that person is? It is a private information. It's a health information. It can, for example, I can have a flu, right? A simple H1N1 flu, and I can be running a temperature of 99 degrees, which is not at all harmful. But if that 99 degrees is shown, it is quite possible that the customer will say, oh, you might have COVID and therefore don't deliver it, please go away. Is it possible in the chat box? Yes or no? In this case, is it a violation of privacy?
Yes is the response.
So it depends on the context, right? So this is called exclusion. That is, you are excluding someone because they don't want to divulge certain information, right? So if this guy who is sitting there, he doesn't want to install Arogya Setu, then automatically Zomato says that you cannot be employed with me, right? And this is called exclusion. And this can actually is a privacy intrusion, because if this guy wants to be enrolled in Zomato, he has to give his temperature on and off to Zomato, and which is a personal information. It's subtle, but very important. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how will you define the privacy violation in these cases? Any number? Average?
It's 8, 5, average of 7 maybe.
Yeah, 7, 6, right? So it is not as severe as compared to, for example, surveillance or secondary use or aggregation that we discussed, but it's still somewhat in the positive range, right? So which means that there is still intrusion of privacy. Okay. So we have how many? About half an hour. Okay. Then dissemination stage, we'll come and discuss about some of these things. Breach of confidentiality. How many of you told your doctor the truth about your health? Yes or no? The truth.
100% yes.
100% yes. How many of you think that your doctor is trustworthy, so that the information that you give about your health will not be passed on by the doctor to someone else? How many of you think that your doctor is trustworthy? Yes or no?
Fully not sure. Most of them, yes.
Most of them, yes. Right. So the doctors, including our daughter is also a doctor. So on the first day, when you enter the medical school, you normally sign up for what is known as the Hippocratic Oath, right? The Hippocratic Oath basically says that, the personal information that is given by the individual for health reasons will not be disclosed to any third party. They actually sign that Hippocratic Oath. All the medical students have to sign it in the first year. They have to adhere it for their life. Okay. If, for example, your doctor, right, this girl is discussing some important orthopedic problem, and this doctor gets all this information and gives it to a pharmacy company who can sell some orthopedic medicine to this particular girl. Is this violation of privacy? Yes or no? In the chat box.
Yes. It's yes. Yes.
Right. So this is a confidential information which happens between this girl and the doctor, and this information has been passed on to the third party without her consent, and therefore the trustworthiness between the doctor and the patient is completely lost. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this privacy intrusion?
It's average of 8.
Average of 8, right? Severe, right? Because you trust. See, there are two things you should never do in life. Don't lie to a doctor and don't lie to the lawyer, right? Because the lawyer is also very important, because criminals, whatever it is, you go and approach the lawyer, you have to tell all the truth, right? So that he can, stand up in the court for you, right? But if that lawyer exchanges information with someone else, then it is really, really a breach of confidentiality. And it is a severe case, right? So breach of this is another dimension of privacy, and of course it is quite severe. It can be quite severe. Disclosure. Aadhaar numbers appearing on. So we'll come to that. That's very closely related to breach of confidentiality. We can come back to it later. Exposure. What do you think about this? Anybody, Surya, you can just tell me what is coming in the chat box. What do you think about this person who is sleeping?
Power nap.
Power nap. Power nap. Now, you think that, when you see this, right? I'm not putting any Indian politician here. So if you see this, right, what do you think of this guy? This guy is
happy is what the respondent.
Happy. Okay. So this guy will serve the need of the country, yes or no? What is there in the chat box? This guy will serve the country. Yes or no?
No is the response.
No is the response. Why? Because you see him sleeping, right? You know that, all these guys, they're all in a busy meeting, United States, all those boards are there, and this guy is busy taking a power nap, right? So he has no clue about what is going on, and therefore he cannot lead the country. That's what you think, right? This is a perception that I've got by seeing this particular photograph. But in fact, he may be a very good politician. He may be a very good leader. But unfortunately, the moment that he was sleeping was captured in public and it was disseminated. He was exposed, for example. Okay. What about this? What is Trump seeing? Anybody? Annapurna, you got some message?
They are laughing emojis and yeah.
So Trump doesn't believe his wife. Okay. He wants to make sure that she votes for him in the presidential election. Huh? So can you vote for Trump? In the chat box, yes or no?
Never, yes, no.
Never.
It's
So,
no opinion.
So this is exposure, right? This particular photograph should not have been made public. This is some private thing that, I mean, he really might not have really, looked at it like that. But unfortunately, it got published, and people have the opinion that he's useless, right? So exposure does a lot of harm to privacy, right? He didn't want this to be disclosed, but it was disclosed in public. Okay, so how would you rate? Is this privacy intrusion, first of all, in a chat box? Is this intrusion of privacy? Opening, showing a guy, good leader to be sleeping, or the guy is squinting at his wife, or whether he is voting for him or not, things like that.
Most of them think, yes, it is privacy.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? What's the average you're getting, Annapurna?
6 approx.
6. No, it is okay. It's still violation of privacy, because this guy did not want the world to know that he's a dumb guy, right? But unfortunately, the world thinks that he's a dumb guy. So this is because of the negativity that was created by this particular photograph or whatever it is, right? So this leads to privacy intrusion, but it's not as serious as that, but it can possibly have negative consequences for the reputation of the person. My reputation is lost. For example, if I'm caught in public, right, that I'm sleeping, you'll say that what this guy will teach in class, right? He's always sleeping and he's a moron, right? That's what people will think about me, right? And that's not the impression that I want to give. So unfortunately, it is leaked into the public. So that is a privacy intrusion.
There's a question from Sonam.
Yeah.
This is misinformation. Is it really a matter of data privacy?
Yes. Misinformation leads to, if it causes reputational harm, that is, my reputation is harmed because of misinformation, then yes, it is a violation of privacy. But I will come to that a little bit later. Here is actually doing something, right? It is not misinformation. He's actually squinting at that ballot, right? And that has been made public, and that is exposure. Okay. So misinformation, I will come to that later. Misinformation is not representing the reality. It's actually representing reality. So it is not misinformation, but it is exposing it to the public. Okay, I'll come to that. Blackmail. Ransomware attacks. You must be knowing about what ransomware attacks are, right? Basically, ransomware attacks are ones in which the particular virus gets implanted on the system, laptop or mobile or desktop or whatever it is, and then you will get a message, right, saying that, if you don't pay me $100,000, then I will destroy your hard drive, right? And this is not just personal laptops and desktops and things like that. Even critical infrastructure is being attacked by ransomware. In the last year, I was there in the US, the whole gas pipeline, the pipeline which transports gas from one part of the country to the other part of the country, there was a lot of electronics which made that work, and the whole computer system which monitored the gas flow was attacked by ransomware. It was perpetrated by a group in Russia or some other place. They said that unless you pay us some huge amount, millions, hundreds of billions of dollars, we will not remove the ransomware, and it will destroy the gas pipeline distribution system in the US, right? That's actually what it's a blackmail, right? And how were they able to do it? They were able to implant that particular ransomware into the system through security loopholes, and then perpetrated this particular attack, right? So it can happen to our personal information, because for example, my laptop, it has a lot of personal information, and if it gets destroyed, then I'm in deep problem, right? Therefore, ransomware attacks are a kind of privacy intrusive mechanisms which can actually destroy your personal information. Okay, so this is also can cause personal privacy intrusions. Appropriation. What about this? Is this violation of privacy? Rahul Gandhi's Twitter account was breached, and somebody breached that account and then started tweeting, and everybody thought that Rahul Gandhi was tweeting, but in fact, no, he was not tweeting, right? The guy who infiltrated the account was tweeting. Is this intrusion of privacy? Yes or no?
Yes, yes is the answer from chat.
Yeah. So this is known as appropriation of one's credentials and doing it, right? This causes a very different problem, right? Because we don't know what the Twitterati has tweeted. Depending upon the tweet, it is possible that the person's reputation can go for a toss, right? And therefore, this happened because of security breach. But this is misappropriation. Appropriation of the account. One person gets hold of the other account using some hacking problems, and then displays messages as if it is coming from their own. So it is a violation of privacy, right? In fact, India's first cyber case took place. First cyber crime case was actually a misappropriation. So what happened was that I'll just discuss briefly. There was a guy called Arif Khan in Noida who basically went ahead. At that time, Sony TV was launching its website, and he used a credit card to purchase huge, color TV, Sony TV, using the credit card credentials. The credit card credentials went through the credit card network, MasterCard, Visa, and Sony got the payment from the credit card network, and therefore they immediately dispatched the TV and got the TV within 2 days, right? After a month, there is this lady called Barbara Campa who was there in the UK, got the credit card bill. In that credit card bill, there is a huge amount for a TV that she did not buy. So what happened, right? So Arif Khan was working for a call center, and he had access to Barbara Campa's credit card information, including the 3-digit CVV, the expiration date and all those things. Using that credentials, he actually purchased the TV from Sony India website. Since the credentials was approved by MasterCard, Visa, he was delivered the credit card, but the bill went to Barbara Campa with a huge bill. So she filed a case. It was the first case that was filed against cybercrime in India. Okay. Now, the important thing is this appropriation case, right? Because Arif Khan basically purchased this as if it was Barbara Campa, because using her credentials. Is this violation of privacy? In the chat box, please.
Yes, yes. It's 100% yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Serious.
It's 10.
It's 10, right? 9 or 9, right? It is appropriation of the individual's personal identity, and therefore it can have serious consequences. Okay. What about this? Annapurna, can you make anything out of this?
Yeah. It shows people are standing in a line and it shows their heights.
It shows their height, right? Now, this guy, right? Okay, I just So Trump is here, of course, Merkel, German former vice chancellor is here. Donald Trump is here, right? And this is Trudeau, right? Justin Trudeau of Canada. So Justin Trudeau has said that he is 6.2, right? 6 feet and 2 inches. Okay, 6 feet 2 inches. Donald Trump has filed in his presidential candidacy that his height was 6 foot 3 inches. What does this picture say? Is Donald Trump shorter or taller than Justin Trudeau?
Definitely shorter.
Shorter. So he must be lying. He must be lying, no? He must have lied.
Yes.
Huh? So Donald Trump must have lied about his height. If he can lie about his height, then he can lie about anything. Is that true? In the chat box? Possible, huh?
Probably, yes.
Probably. Okay. Now, is this violation of privacy of Donald Trump? This picture which was taken, posted in public, was this intrusion of privacy? How do you know that this guy, Justin Trudeau, is not having a heeled shoe? He might have been having heeled shoe, no? Possible. Okay. So the important thing is, this is called exposure, right? It's called, it's called distortion, distortion of the facts. We don't know exactly whether it is true or not, but in general, I'm saying that, you know, by putting these pictures and showing that Donald Trump is in fact shorter than Justice Trudeau, and that he must have lied at the time of presidential campaign about his height, is it intrusion of privacy? In the chat box. It was in fact tweeted on June 11, 2018. If that is true, why is he shorter than 6'2"? Justin Trudeau, it was tweeted. So this guy, Edward Hardy, who tweeted on June 11, 2018 about Donald Trump's height. Was he violating Donald Trump's privacy? Yes or no?
Yes, only 1% responded saying yes.
Okay.
Feel that figures cannot claim privacy in public places.
So, politics, you cannot claim privacy in public places. Okay. So that's a valid point. It's a valid point. Those are all some nuances of defining privacy. But of course, this may not have serious consequences, but this can be termed as a violation of privacy. Accessibility. Sensitive. Okay, fine. Okay. Now you must have seen about this particular case of Pegasus virus infecting a device, and this is Israeli spyware, right? Project Pegasus, and this was implanted, right, through messages and things like that onto a lot of mobile phones, and this particular spyware can actually record conversations. It was targeted mainly at journalists and so on, and then it can infect a device, and then it can record conversations and can send it to whoever is required outside. So this was a case which was reported in India about roughly 1 year back. Is this violation of privacy? A firmware injected into my device without my knowledge, right, intrudes into all the conversations that is taking place in the mobile, captures it, and then sends it out to outside. Is this violation of privacy?
100% yes.
100%.
Response.
Right. So this is, this is called intrusion, right? Intrusion into my private space. My mobile phone. Is your mobile phone private? In chat box?
Yes.
Yes. Right. So I know that most of you will be teenagers and you don't want even your parents to see. My daughter doesn't want me to see her mobile phone, right? It's so personal, right? And if somebody infects using a virus, your mobile phone captures all the information, that's serious violation of privacy, right? So intrusions in this form can have very consequences. The last one, decisional interference. Okay, you know this thing? You can see that the guy in the tree. Can you see Annapurna? The guy who is there, I think he's there. He's climbing. on the tree. Do you know why he's climbing?
Yeah. Okay, wife's Aadhaar card to avoid getting COVID vaccine.
Ah.
Okay.
So he doesn't want to get COVID vaccine, right? And he has to give his he kept his wife's Aadhaar card with him, climbed a tree so that nobody can catch him. There are other instances, right?
But
In
I don't
fact,
understand the relation between wife's Aadhaar and he able to climb the tree for not getting the vaccine.
maybe I don't know exactly. Maybe his Aadhaar card. Let's say his Aadhaar card. Is this? So what is the funda here? Why is this violation of privacy, you think? See, Aadhaar card is mandatory. It used to be mandatory, at least for the first shot of COVID vaccine, right? So for the first shot of COVID vaccine, everybody had to submit the Aadhaar card for identification purposes so that it can be linked to the Aadhaar card, right? The COVID vaccination certificate. Is this violation of privacy? That is giving your Aadhaar card, the identity card for getting COVID vaccination.
It's not really, no, only 1 year so far.
So it is dicey. No. Of course, we are doing it for safety purposes. But once the Aadhaar card information is given, then that information can be used, including the biometrics for re-identification, can be used for so many purposes and so on. So it is not a very important case, but the fact that people are required to sort of give their Aadhaar card for each and every service that they are getting, right, can be on extreme cases. In which case the state says that this is the way in which it has to be done. You have to adhere to it. You cannot say as an individual that this cannot be done, or I have an alternate way of doing it, right? So this is called decisional interference, where somebody makes a decision on behalf of you, right? So the state has decided that all people, the only people with Aadhaar card will get their, ration. If you don't have Aadhaar card, you won't get the ration, right? Somebody is making a decision on behalf of you, and what is the trade-off? By giving you a personal information, I'm authorizing the state to provide me with the ration. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky case, but the fact that you are trading off personal information for getting something back is itself a case for privacy intrusion, right? So it can be debated, right, whether it is privacy intrusion or not, but a lot of sometimes these things can really affect you, right? If you are forced to do certain things, and in the process of forcing you to do certain things, you are sharing personal information to the state or whoever it is, then it can be called as the intrusion of privacy. So what I have given is a glimpse of various dimensions of privacy, right? So privacy is not security breach, right? It can be very subtle. Such as, for example, public exposure of certain doings of yours, or whom you trusted leaks out information, or that Google search uses your personal information to give you advertisements which are very personalized. These are all forms of privacy intrusions. How many of you know that Google has a digital persona of individuals like you and me? How many of you say that in the chat box, please?
Yes is the response.
Yeah. For example, if you see Google timeline 1 year back, it knows where you were, right? So the fact that Google is able to track all your movements, right, and then keep track of it, could be a cause for concern. Of course, it is one thing to say that, oh, Google is doing an excellent job because I don't have to really save all the photographs that I have taken like 5 years back onto my laptop, preserved, and so on. Google does it for me, no problem, right? But the fact that Google has access to that information and can potentially be misused can be a cause for concern. And therefore, there has to be a law to protect you, right? There has to be a law to protect you if something goes wrong, right? And that's what we will discuss in the tomorrow's session. But before that, don't become privacy paranoid like this. Right? The boss is worried about information security, he sends just one alphabet at a time in random sequence and things like that. This is actually privacy paranoid. So don't become privacy paranoid, right? Don't think that everybody is trying to intrude into your privacy, but at the same time make informed decisions, right? Don't ever do this. Right? So don't become privacy paranoid, but at the same time take enough precautions to make sure that your privacy is not violated. Okay? How many of you in this class clean up cookies periodically? In the chat box, please. Cookies on your laptop periodically. How many of you clear it?
Majority of them.
Clear it. Then you have a good. Then you have a good
But
informed.
no also, but yes, it's a mix of yes and no.
Okay. Then there is a good informed spectators, right? Audience for this winter summer workshop. Professor Vivek Srinivasan, congratulations to you. Right? I don't clear cookies on my desk laptop, to be frank with you, right? And that cookie,
frankly, me neither.
cookie contains so much of personal information that it is very dangerous. But anyway, so I am almost there. I think
there are a couple of questions on
sure.
as
Read it
well.
out, please.
Yeah, I'll post that. How is okay? Sorry, Dr. Chandrasekhar asked, what is the vital difference between privacy and secrecy? Is there any law for privacy?
Yes. So privacy, we don't have a law yet. Okay. So that's what we'll discuss it tomorrow. There is a data protection bill, which is pending before the parliament, but I'm not sure whether it has been pending in the parliament for the last 4 years. 2018 was the one in which we drafted this bill. So as of now, it has not been enacted. So which means that we don't have a law. Okay. On the other hand, with respect to security, we have DCET, Information Technology Act of 2000, which was modified in 2008, and some more modifications have been done. We will discuss about this tomorrow. So there is a whole lot which has been enacted with respect to computer security, but privacy as a whole, we just have a bill which is yet to be enacted. Of course, the countries like European Union have a umbrella bill called the European Union General Data Protection Regulation, which we will discuss about it tomorrow. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is another question from Arun. Isn't privacy a social and cultural construct, which means that technology will never have a complete way to ensure privacy?
Absolutely. So you have to attend our course called Privacy in the Digital Age, right? So we have a technologist, I am an economist and regulation, and then there is a sociologist. We teach this course called Privacy in Digital Age. You are absolutely correct. It has a lot of social and cultural context. So using technology alone, it is not possible to solve the privacy problems, right? So we have to have consciousness. We have to have, context-specific response to privacy intrusions. And that's why privacy is so complex. I must give my credentials to Daniel Soloway, because he's the one who inspired me to take a hard look at privacy and also privacy regulations for both teaching and research. And he wrote that seminal paper. You should download it. It's available in the open space. I have given you the full reference. You should download it and read through it. Of course, the cases are not the cases that I presented, right? They were about American cases and so on. But you should read through that, right? It was written a long time back, 2006. Any questions? Any other questions?
Vanshika has asked, is it really a privacy intrusion if we trust a particular company, say Google, because we are ready to give away the information to them?
No, what is the question?
Is it really a privacy if we trust a particular company, say Google?
Yeah. See, Google, yeah. So again, I mean, it all comes back to the consent, right? So Google privacy, you have to go through. How many of you have read Google's privacy policy? Chat box, yes or no?
No.
No. So we don't know what we have signed up for, right? Right. So in fact, they're all changing. They're all changing quite a bit so that they inform the users well as to what the changes they are doing with respect to privacy policy and so on. But if you share your information through a contract to a data fiduciary, and if the contract, according to a contract, you have accepted all the conditions, then the law cannot help you. But if they go beyond what is stated, which we'll discuss it tomorrow, then law can help you, right? So if you find that Google is violating your privacy or sharing your personal information beyond what is declared in their privacy policy, you can go sue Google for $50 billion, take retirement.
Yeah, they are interested about the course you just mentioned. They would like to know whether it's online.
Unfortunately not. This is a IIITB course, but we will find out. In fact, I think with the help from Professor Vivek Srinivasan, we'll find out how many of you may be interested. We'll find out a way to do it, but we are seriously considering publishing this course as a MOOC course in Coursera soon. Not this semester, probably in January.
I'm sure, Professor Sridhar, there will be many who will be interested.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm almost done. 2 minutes to spare and I'm done. Yeah.
We answered almost all possible questions on chat.
Okay. Okay. So over to you, Professor Vivek.
Thank you so much, Professor Sridhar, for patiently answering the questions. Thank you.
Yeah.